This is a video showing how to do selections and measurements in SpatialXL. Prerequisite to this video is the video on how to add points to SpatialXL and how to add areas to SpatialXL. The first thing I'm going to do is open my spatial pane where I've already added points and areas. So here I've got customer points and I've got my subplaces areas in South Africa. There are many ways to get information about the data in this graphics area. If I zoom into any area, I'm using my mouse wheel to zoom in. And let's say I'd like to get some information. I'm just going to turn on some basic text labels here. Let's say name. So here I can look at customers specifically. And let's say I want to look at this particular customer. I'm just going to press on the identify tool and then I'll click. And here you go, we can see all the information about this customer. And we can also select that row in Excel where we can get more information. So this identify tool can be used for areas such as here, which has linked data. And again, we can select that in Excel, or it could be used for points or any other data. We can also do select by clicking. So again, I'm just going to zoom into a particular area. And I can just click on my select by clicking. That might be in this menu over here. But I've moved one out over here. And I'm selecting these points over here. So I've selected 3 points. And now to get information about these, the first thing I can do is to select them in Excel. And I choose our customers. And we can also get more information about them by going into Show Selected. And there are the 3 points that I've selected over here as well. To clear your selection, you simply click on Select None. I've moved mine out from this menu here. So mine is sitting on this toolbar. Other ways of selection is to, for instance, select all in intersecting box. So in this case, I will now select the areas and the points that are underneath this box. And I can select these in Excel by choosing this will be my customers. And I can also select my actual areas as well. We can also use select by intersecting circle. So we can draw a circle around an area with a certain diameter, and again it will select everything in that area. We can also do an irregular shape selection. So let's say I want to select all the points in this area. Those are my customers in that area. So those are very simple ways of selecting data and inspecting it with Excel or with Show Selected, where I can, for instance, get a count and see how many I've actually selected and where they are. And that'll show me where these points are located. I'm going to clear my selections. I also just wanted to show a few other selection features. For instance, let's do a larger select here. So I've selected all these areas. What I can also do is I can flip my selection so that everything but those areas are selected. I can also, if I simply wanted to select all my data, I can also go into my right click menu here and say for that particular layer, set to layer, and that will select all of the items in that layer in toto. Now there is also a way to filter and select to get very specific queries or questions answered about your data. So let's say for these subplaces I'm looking at a particular kind of market analysis. So let's say the first thing I want to do is only choose city areas, urban, and you can see lots has been filtered away. I'm just going to turn my labels off of my customers. Now let's say that we are only interested in a high population density, and some other areas have been filtered away. We're down to 1696. And let's say for this particular campaign we don't want to focus on the Eastern Cape, so we're just going to leave that particular province out of it. So now what we can do, like if we zoom into this area here, we can see that there are certain customers that will fall into these particular areas. So to find those customers, we basically select all of these areas that we've filtered down to, and by just pressing Ctrl A, and we can click on the ribbon and say highlight selection, and you see all of these sub places that we've selected are now highlighted. Now we can do a select by location query, and let's say that we want to compare with sub places that are selected, and that's that many, and we'd like to get customers that are within the sub places. And we select, and now you can see the exact customers that are within those particular analyzed and targeted sub places are now selected. We can now go and select these customers in Excel. So it's a customers spreadsheet. Let's just quickly add a color to our selected items, and we're going to filter on color. And these are all the customers that I've now selected in this particular target campaign. Now we can go one step further by adding an extra column over here. So I'm adding an additional field here, and I'm going to just mark all of these ones. And we can take the color off now because we've marked them. And we can also clear our filters and our selections. So there we've actually marked out specific customers in a specific campaign. Now let's go one step further. So what I'd like to do is add my outlets to Excel. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my X to longitude, my Y to latitude, so I can add my data correctly. I'll use the Add Excel Layer button on my ribbon. And there are my outlets. I'm just going to make my points a bit thicker. There are all the outlets servicing my customers. And I'd like to correlate these to my customers, but only the customers that I've chosen in my marketing campaign. So I'm going to filter on those customers, and then I'm going to select these customers, and there they are selected. And now I'm going to do another select by location query. I'd like to compare with customers, only my selected customers, and I'd like to find my outlets that are within a distance of 5 kilometers from a particular customer. And there are my specific outlets that are within that distance. Just a note here, if you're using Latin longs that we've been adding with our data, and your scene projection is World Mercator, that works very well. And again, I can now select these in Excel, and those are my outlets. And there you go. Those are the outlets that I target to handle those particular customers. So that gives you a very good idea of the select by location query and how useful it can be for market analysis. The last item I'd like to show in this demonstration is a measuring tool. We can measure in meters any particular distances. And there's my distances, and the totals are in here, and this can also be copied to the clipboard and then pasted to Excel. That is the end of this demonstration. For more information, please contact our websites and continue to watch videos about SpatialXL. Thank you very much.